Hello everyone, let's look into the HTTP module in Angular. So to make any API call in Angular, we need a HTTP module, and so to start with, we need to import the HTTP client module in main app.module.ts file to use the HTTP features for our Angular application. And the second step is create a service and inject the HTTP client module for that service, so that by using HTTP client module we can call the get method or a post method or a delete method or a create method. So any sort of HTTP methods that we want to use. So Angular application connects with the server using HTTP module, and the server can be hosted on AWS, like AWS Lambda, or a Spring Boot application that is hosted on EC2. So any server, Angular communicates through the HTTP module only, and it will get the data by using get method. It will create the record using post method likewise, and it will delete using delete method, and it will put using put method. So any Angular application that is rendered onto the browser will always communicate with the server using HTTP only. Okay, and let's look into each one with a code and a real-time example. So now let's look at how we can write the Angular services using HTTP. To start with, I'll start a div, and I'll add 3 different buttons to get a single post and to get all the posts, and to create a post. So for this, I didn't create any backend service, but I'm using this JSON placeholder API. This is a free API that anybody can use it. Okay, so I'm using this one. Okay, so this is a plain application that I have, which is empty now. Okay, so to start with, I'll add a button to I'll get all posts and click of this button. This is a function. Okay, and when I get all the posts, I just wanted to display. So for that, okay, let's add this function over here. So this should get all the posts. To get hold of the posts, I'll say any of array, because this is a list of posts that we are going to get. Okay, to write the service, the first and foremost thing, to use the HTTP, we have to use it. I'm creating a service, ng generate service. Since it is posts, I'm creating posts service. Okay, now I have this service. So within this service, the first and foremost thing that we need to do is inject the HTTP client module. Okay, to make the API call, we need to first inject the HTTP client. Okay, this is first step. But to use the HTTP features, we need to add a HTTP client module to the main module file. Otherwise, HTTP features are not going to work. Okay, so once we have this, let me just add get all posts. Okay, and what I'll do is, it will be observable of any of array. This will be multiple records that we get, or for now let's say any. Okay, from this, let's run this dot HTTP dot get, and I need this URL to get all the posts. Since I'm using this JSON placeholder, I'll use this URL. I'll just define it like base URL. Okay, I'll say base URL. Okay, so the base URL plus I want to get all the posts. Okay, I can say this dot. Okay, this will return me all the posts from here. Okay, whatever you are seeing, user ID, title, body with all the list of records. Okay, and now I'm going to call this. Before I call this method, I need to first inject the service into the constructor. It is post service, so I'm importing this post service and injected into the constructor. Now I can call this method get all posts. Since it is observable, I need to subscribe to it. Okay, once I subscribe, I'll get the data in the pipe format. Once I get, I need to assign this data to list of posts. Okay, right now I have posts. This is a list. Okay, once I get this, I'll print it onto the console. Okay, how I can do that is, since it is a list, I'll use Angular 17 for loop, post of posts, track, so the track by the post ID. So track post.id. Okay, and while I for loop it, I'll just use the template just to display. Okay, if it is empty, so no posts available. Within this, I'll have a post.id, post.user ID, post.title, and post.body. Okay, ID, user ID, title, and body. These are the 4 fields. Okay, that's what I used. Now let's run and see. Okay, when I click this one, I should get all the list of posts. Okay, it is not working. Let's see why is this not working. In the network, see, we got all the posts. So we got the list of posts. Okay, now since this is outside, okay, let's just check. Let's put it here. Okay, for now let's remove the template and just use the div. Okay, let's so right now there are no posts. When I click this one, I got all the list of posts. Okay, it is not properly formatted, but okay, these are the total list of posts. Instead of this, we can use a table and display, but right now let it be. Okay, so this is how we can make the API call. Okay, right now we are getting all the posts, right? Okay, let's try to get only single post. Okay, I'll just get rid of this piece. Okay, we need a single post. Okay, if there is a post, else no posts. Okay, within this, let's cut this piece, put it here. Now get post by ID. We'll get single post. Okay, for this one we need a input type, input text box, input text. I'll use ng model, post ID. Okay, since we don't have post ID here, it is failing. Let's say string, or we can define empty string. Okay, now we got a text box. Okay, now let's write this function. So in the service right now we don't have a function to get a single post. Okay, now let's change this one to get single post. Okay, get post by ID. Of course we will get a post ID here, and we'll say string. Okay, now so the base URL plus the post ID. Okay, now this dot post service dot get post by ID. We pass the post ID here. It is of string. Pass it here. Then it is observable. So we have to subscribe, and we get a single post data. And once we receive it, we'll assign this to a post. Okay, and we don't have a single post here, post object, so let's use this. Okay, now we got the post. Now we can print it here. Okay, let's see. Right now it is saying no posts. Why? Because there is no post. Why? Because if you see, if there is a post, then only display it. If there is no post, just say no posts. Okay, now when I pass one value and get it, I got the first post data. Okay, now let's get the second one. See, you see, we got the second one. Now let's see, 4, we got the fourth post. So this is how we can get a single post, by passing the parameter. Okay, and also there are other ways to pass the parameter. Okay, so instead of passing it here directly, we can say let HTTP parameters HTTP params object you can create, and you can directly set it here. Okay, like the property name, okay, and the value. This is how also you can set. When you set like this, you cannot pass this one here. Instead you should say parameters, and you should say pass the parameters. Okay, this is how you can pass it. And if there are any authentication token or something, you can say authentication parameters like this. See, new HTTP headers. This is the headers, and you can set HTTP parameters, most probably the authorization token that we pass usually. Okay, you can say token here. Okay, you can pass the token. Also you can set these parameters here. Okay, now it is okay. If you see headers, for this headers you can set this. Okay, now it will work. So this is how you can pass the parameters and authentication parameters. If you have single parameter, you can directly set it, but if you have multiple parameters, you can set it like this, like dot set again, and you can add more parameters here. Okay, now let's see how we can create a post. Okay, so let me just remove this. Okay, we don't need a text box. And say create post, and we'll create the post object directly in the component. Okay, this dot posts service dot create post. Right now there is no method in it, so that's why it is throwing error. Okay, once we create it, we get that return, this dot post equal to created post. Okay, let's create the method in the posts service. Okay, since we don't have anything, let's directly create a post object here. Okay, since we have different parameters, ID, you can say 1, user ID 1, title, you can say title, and body, you can say post body. Okay, let's say 111. Okay, we got the post. Now to create it, this dot, okay, this dot HTTP dot post method that we have to use. Okay, this is the post method, and within this the base URL comma the body object, which is post. Okay, this will create the post. Okay, and for once we create this post, we are returning the data. Let's see whether it is working, and we just, okay, I doubt whether it will work because we don't know whether we can create the post to this dummy JSON. Body ID, title, user ID, ID, title, body. So basically, since this is dummy API, we don't know whether we can directly create it. Okay, we don't know whether we can create it. Okay, but this is how you can write the post method here. Okay, you can post and pass the body, and additionally if you want to set the parameters, this is how you can set. And along with this, if you see parameters and if you see headers, this is how you can set the headers. Okay, that's all from this session. See you in the next session.